Broadcasting live from Uncharted Haven on the plane of... we don't know yet. We haven't charted it yet. This is Tap Tap Concede. Hey, everybody. I'm Graham, and joining me today is Nelson.
Hi there.
And Cameron.
Huh?
And we have a whole... a bushel of different topics to discuss this week, which we will do in a moment, after I remind you that this show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Please check out cardkingdom.com/LRR for all of your Magic card needs. Tell them we sent you. They'll send you a little button. I think we're still on upkeep, draw, untap. Then also telling them that we sent you is helpful because then they know that we sent you. Haha. Want to mention also Dragon Shield. And you can use the code LRRMTG5 to get yourself a 5% discount off of purchases on their store. And, of course, this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun or by becoming a member on the YouTube channel. There was a banning, but not quite. There's some new commander stuff. There's previews for Foundations. We're going to Vegas. Not before all of that. After Vegas, we have the Foundations pre-release. I want to tell everyone about that as well. James reminded me to remind you. November 1st, the Friday at 10 a.m. We're going to be doing. We're going to be playing some Magic Foundations. We'll find out what that whole set is about, and so you're going to want to tune in for that. I think it's actually going to be a lot of fun from what I've seen of the set. But first. Last episode we like held the show and recorded it late so that we could make sure to live, as close to live, react to the Marvel Secret Lairs stuff, which includes some mechanically distinct cards. And Nelson, you were not with us last week. Did you have any thoughts about these layers?
Yeah, so I think the layers look pretty cool, although I would like some additional context, because I knew the Marvel with Magic the Gathering team up was happening sometime soon, but I didn't think it was just going to be a few Secret Lairs. Although when I saw them start to roll in on my social media, I was like, oh, are they going to drop a Secret Lair for every single Marvel superhero? Because that would really bankrupt James.
Yep.
But yeah, the cards look pretty great. Like, I was just trying to figure out exactly all the different things you can do with Black Panther. And obviously, getting hit by Aurora in a game of anything is going to be
extremely lethal.
Yeah, super, super toxic, right? Like, it's like anything gets stormed now, and all you had to do was hit me with your Flying Vigilance 4-mana commander.
Yeah, like I saw that card, and I was like, oh, I would love to play all of my favorite cards with this. And I saw what other people were planning to do, and it was just like, play that one sorcery that makes a token copy of a creature that... and it
Right of Replication? Or the one Arenis's Vile Duplication?
Something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, this sucks now.
Right.
This is old and busted.
Right. Like, let's first make... the most playing with your food you can do is where you make a bunch of copies of Storm for signature.
Yes.
If you're listening, it's 1 green, blue, red for a 3/4 legendary mutant hero with Flying and Vigilance and Ceaseless Tempest. Whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. So, I mean, some elegant connection of the name of the hero with the ability. But also, this card feels to me like it'll have two modes, like we killed it immediately or we countered it immediately or whatever, or the game ended after it got to attack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like if you let this thing untap, thing is like, it's going to be brief.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I wouldn't be surprised if
she gets blocked by Giant Spider, but
I'm saying this and like I think that's going to be, mode A of this card, but like also shout out Giant Spider. God damn. Play into your audience here, Cameron.
It's a 2/4 with reach.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. This 4-drop's not that big a deal. Just play Giant Spider more, idiots. No,
yeah, come on, man.
I'm saying this, but I imagine that, either one of the Bens could put together some deck that's like, it's fine. I hit you with this, and then I just like make 1,000 0/1s or something.
Yeah, or we cast that thing that gives us another combat step.
Yeah, it's okay. All I can do is deal damage to creatures. That's all my deck does. Something like that. But yeah, there's more than just some Secret Lairs, right?
Yeah, so it's a multi-year partnership with Magic and Marvel, and there's going to be a lot of...
They want that long money.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. All they've announced, and we know We know nothing about it other than the next thing after these secret lairs is a set, like a full draftable set, and it's about Spider-Man.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So I presume it's all the, because there's so many characters.
Oh, yeah.
In the Spider-Man, nexus of Marvel. So it's just that.
Right.
So fingers crossed for Spiders-Man, but who's just a giant pile of spiders.
I always liked. I didn't really read a lot of comics. Never have. But I did like the Twisted Web of Spider-Man. Especially the issue that just dealt with how much Rhino's life sucked. Right? Like, he's just stuck in this suit. He can't get out of bed without a series of pulleys.
Oh, wild. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
The only
You
Spider-Man,
never know what someone's going through.
The only Spider-Man comic I was never really into comics, but I did get a whole bunch of them secondhand, and they were all DC stuff, like 1980s Brave and the Bold or Legion of Superheroes, and Flash and stuff like that. But I did have one Spider-Man comic, which was a free one that my grandparents picked up for me at Zellers, because it was an ad for Zellers
Wild.
of Spider-Man protecting.
The Calgary
Zellers.
Stampede from the Joker, right?
No, that was Batman. I had
okay.
that one as well.
Right.
I definitely had Batman and the Joker at the Calgary Stampede.
Right.
This was Spider-Man fighting the Hobgoblin to defend the Montreal Expos.
Oh, man. That actually sounds familiar. I was going to say I haven't read any Spider-Man, but maybe I have read that one.
If you're American and are unfulfamiliar with what a Zellers might be, it's kind of like a Kmart.
But more sad.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they were actually in the same. Weren't they sibling stores?
I think
Zellers and Kmart.
they might have been. I don't know.
They
Zellers
moved
was
into
just
each other's, like,
it was
abandoned
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, they're kind of like hermit crabs for one another.
Yeah.
Zellers was a retailer, a budget retailer, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a place where Canadian children were left unattended by their parents and then had to be brought to, like, a customer service desk, and a loudspeaker announcement would,
Yeah. When you were 7 years old, and
That's
you
the
would-
one, Paul.
wild.
Dead Ball featuring the Montreal Expos. Hell yeah. But I don't recall what the tie-in was there. Maybe that was actually like Expos thing, but I distinctly remember the Batman one because they literally stop at a Zellers on their way to Calgary,
right.
which is real funny.
Oh man.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's wild that these promotions to, like, get kids interested in big box retailers worked so well, even though the big box retailers ultimately failed before we got to the point in our lives when we were going to drop mad dollars on a new dishwasher.
yep.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean? Like, this was such a long con.
You know, the something's legacy can outlive it by many, many years. It's like how we have gazelles on the North American prairie that can run at like 70 kilometers per hour, even though there's no predator
Right.
that can do that left anymore.
Can catch half of how fast they can run or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. However, there was once one that went extinct.
Okay. But hey, being able to run really fast is nice.
Yeah, it's meditative.
Also, Ice Storm reprint. Shout
a
out.
get.
That I don't know if there's people on the Marvel team that did this team up who are fans of Magic. Maybe we'll find that out eventually or not. But, like, whoever was on the Marvel side, like, this is like a big get for your team up project. They have literally never reprinted this since Unlimited, which is basically the starter set. Like, Alpha, Beta, Unlimited have all theoretically the same exact card list. They just didn't have Volcanic Island in Alpha because of a snafu. But they just went like, no, this is like Red's thing or Black or like, but they did it a little bit more in terms of targeted land destruction. If you don't know Ice Storm, it's just Stone Rain, 2 and a green for sorcery, destroy target land. Stone Rain has continued to see a little bit of reprinting. Like, it got printed in a base set and was legal in extended and even standard, I think, like the latest of any of the targeted land destruction spells. Sinkhole also has been reprinted into Eternal formats, and then other similar 3-mana land destruction spells got printed more in the 90s, but then this whole idea of targeted cheap land destruction kind of went away.
Right. I think they were trying to keep it around so that they could like get a little more aggressive with the design of lands, and then that just sucks.
Right,
It's
exactly.
like, well, everyone's got a side in 4 Stone Rain in their sideboard, right?
Right. Yeah, or just, it's kind of similar to, it's funny, Ice Storm has in common with the legendary storm creature. Like, this either does nothing or you win the game because of it,
just
right?
Armageddon, like, yeah, your opponent.
Yeah, if you take out the land that they need to cast their spells, then they don't cast spells, and then you win because you're the only one playing. It turns out that's not that fun for either of you, and that's the, like, win case. The other case for this card is, well, I spent my spell and mana destroying your land, and then you do still cast stuff, so now I'm behind, and my deck kind of didn't do anything. But it's a cool card still.
Yeah.
I don't know. The concept of Ice
I
Storm.
was really excited to see Manamorphose be reprinted.
Yeah, Manamorphose reprint is also hot.
Yeah. I think it's only been, this is only its second reprint, isn't it? It was this in Modern Masters and
Shadowmoor, right?
Shadowmoor,
or
yeah.
Eventide?
Eventide, one of those two.
Eventide had the enemy color pairs, right? So it would have been Shadowmoor.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah. Okay, so Shadowmoor, and then, it's just been in... It hasn't had any main set reprint, and probably won't get one.
Yeah, like this was like a $10 card for a while.
Yeah,
right?
Shadowmoor was like the Lorwyn block. Lorwyn, Alara, Time Spiral, maybe. Those one of those, like, we don't have the sales data. I don't think WotC ever plans to release any of that, but... Well, based on vibes and like what has happened with commons that people want, it sort of seems like those years were like among the lowest points for like Magic sales worldwide. That's my impression anyway. And so Manamorphose, wasn't hot when it came out, but then eventually, time pushed forward like a deck that wanted to use it, and then it became a Storm staple.
I love that you called this as well, Cameron.
Thank you.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah.
We looked at the at the heroes first, so we saw Storm, and then I was like, "What do you think's going to be in Storm's thing?" And I think one of you said Lightning Bolt, which was the first
I
one.
got Bolt.
Yeah, and then you were like, "Man, now I want to see Manamorphose." And I was like, "Well, great news! We got
Nice.
Manamorphose as well." Yeah, Lightning Bolt also looks really cool.
So yeah, Storm Secret Lair looks pretty rad.
Yeah.
I also like the Iron Man Soul Ring quite a lot.
Oh yeah,
the Arc Reactor.
Arc Reactor, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
very,
Looks
very
sweet.
cool. So yeah, these are neat, and there's more. There's a bunch more Marvel stuff to come. When we are in Vegas, as I mentioned, myself and Nelson, and hold on, James, Serge, Wheeler, Ben, and Kathleen,
And Corey.
and Corey.
And me and you. That's it.
Is it 8 people?
Yeah.
Good heavens.
Graham,
Wow.
Nelly,
Yeah.
Corey, James, Ben, Serge, Kathleen.
Wild. Anyway, we'll be in Vegas. Wait. At time of you hearing this, we were in Vegas. I just realized this goes up on the Monday. Well, hopefully you had a good time. But Nelson, what were you playing last week? What you wanted to talk about this format that I'm unfamiliar with.
Right.
Even I couldn't quite parse the name when you said it. So what are
Okay.
you putting together to
So,
play at Vegas?
speaking of Soul Ring,
Yeah.
I have sleeved one up in my 6 100-card singleton decks for the format LA Highlander Gauntlet. Or maybe they're just going to call it Highlander Gauntlet. I don't know. It's from LA. Like, some Magic players from Los Angeles started this out as like their version of Canadian Highlander, Australian Highlander. It's 1v1. You have to play a 100-card singleton. Their banned list is the reserved list, although it started out that their banned list was any card you couldn't get in foil. Like, with the origins of this format
Interesting.
were people
Okay.
who were just like, let's play with all the weird foils we own. Like, let's make sure
Okay,
that
I respect that.
yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it seems to have a lot of the same vibes. I found out about it from Ben Bateman, hanging out with him at Grand Prix Barcelona, or I mean, MagicCon Barcelona last year. And the format intrigued me. And then this year, Ben was doing like a big push, reaching out and advertising, saying like, hey, we're going to have an event at Vegas. So if everything went well, hopefully I won that event at time of watching.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really proud of myself.
Gonna get a time walk or something?
I think he's got a bunch of packs of MH3 to hand out.
Oh,
something
cool.
like that. Yeah, which is great. There's still some cards from that set I need. Thanks, Paul. But yeah, the format is you have to play unified constructed across your 6 decks. So imagine team trios where you can't play any more than the legal number, which in this case is 1 of each card across all the decks. It's 2 of those, so it's a double team trio set of Highlander. So six decks I'm pretty sure no sideboards, although the description of the format that I've watched twice doesn't have any mention of sideboards. So but then my partner yesterday was like, "Do you have to build sideboards too?" And then I was just like, "Oh, I don't know." So I went and asked on a TikTok. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was inquiring whether I needed a sideboard,
Excuse me,
so I
sir.
asked on a TikTok, as was the fashion in the day.
Anyways, so yeah, I spent like better part of this last week doing that, just making these decks, and then the hilarious like last step for me, I don't know, everyone else can have a different process, but it was fun building these decks because unlike when I usually sit down, like lately I've been trying to kind of up my game in terms of deck building by trying to do most of the work of deck building for Highlander like in my head, or just like looking at, Scryfault results or whatever, or like copying other people's lists and then making long notes and then like taking a look at trying to imagine all the possibilities. Whereas for LA Gauntlet, I felt like it was smarter to just grab physically all of the cards that I own already, get them all in front of me and say, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Right? Because the exercise of saying, okay, 600 cards, we want to use like all the best cards we can and then try to arrange them in a fashion that like allows you to play
Right.
most of your most powerful cards, and then also have 6 decks that you want to play and hopefully have a good chance of winning.
Right.
So that was fun. But then I also typed everything up into lists, which you can check on my Moxfield. It's Coach Nelly. And then I felt like I had to do this where you take all 6 lists and then copy them all into another list, and then you can see if there's any dupes. And sure enough, I had put Mindstone in 2 decks, so I got to go back and like figure out that mistake and make sure I was legal. But yeah, the way you play the matches is both players bring 6 decks to the table, and then you just roll a die to see which one you get to play.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
And so you and your opponent both do that, and then no matter the result after game 1, then you do that again, and then possibly a third time, and you take the deck out. So you re-roll if you hit. Like if you roll a 1 on the first game, then if you roll a 1 second game, you re-roll.
This seems like there wouldn't be sideboards then if you're.
I think not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess there's no sideboards. Yeah, but I feel like
Like if you're against the same opponent and you roll again for a game 2, then
right. It could be that each deck has to have its own sideboard, I
Right.
suppose, right? 'Cause that way that your sideboard is like out if you rolled that deck for game 2, but you have a sideboard that's attached to each deck.
right.
Or I guess there could just be like a unified sideboard of 20 cards or something.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I mean, I don't think so. I feel like if there were allowed to be sideboards, it would have been declared already.
Yeah.
I would have found out.
Yeah.
But,
Well, just little kid at FNM, no sideboard.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so that's that format. And my plan also is to have shown up with a small number of X cards. I am bringing a sideboard anyway, because I feel like I've got these 6 decks that like port pretty quickly into Canadian Highlander decks. And so I'll just bring my reserve list cards as well and like do some quick switches, because I'll probably have just played a whole bunch of Canadian Highlander with you. So thank you for playing Canadian Highlander with me
Right.
too.
Yeah. I guess without the non-foil cards like Time Walk and Moxen that are
Yeah.
Highlander, not requirements, but definitely staples.
More or less required. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You want to at least have proxies of those if you're going to play Canadian Highlander most of the time.
In a future episode, please let us know how that will have gone.
Yes, I suspect that
the-
James will organize some sort of recap, so maybe I'll be on that. But if not,
Nice.
then I'll try to drop some thoughts next time I'm on TTC.
Sweet.
The rare use of the future imperfect tense.
Anytime I get to crack that one out.
We did in English.
Yeah. Well, I mean, future imperfect doesn't even really exist in English.
Oh, okay.
Or future perfect? Future perfect, I think, doesn't.
I'm doing my best to act like I know what Cameron's saying.
I don't remember what they're all called. As I also didn't remember until James mentioned it this morning that there was a banning, a sneaky little banning of our newest menace to not quite standard, but sort of. So Leyline of Resonance is one of the new ley lines from
Duskmourn,
House of Horrors. Leyline of Resonance. So it's 2 red. It has the Leyline ability, meaning if you have it in your opening hand, you can just start the game with it in play. And it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Now, when I say it was banned in standard, kind of almost, it's not banned in standard. But it, like, as James mentioned, because he went and looked this up, like Nexus of Fate before it, it's been banned in
Best of
one
Right.
and something else, but it wasn't
Historic, maybe.
Yeah, but not standard. So this is really only a ban that affects Arena. What's so bad about Leyline of Resonance? I know that it's been played a lot recently, but
Well, I think so. I've played none games of standard and haven't run into this deck, but I think probably what's happening is, turn 0, as many of these on the play as on the field as possible.
right.
And then turn 1 is like a creature with Valiant,
Oh yeah,
like a
okay.
1 red mana 1/1 mouse that says I care when you target me. And then turn 2 is like attacking with that and then casting 2 giant growths.
Well, I assume also the thing with this is that in Best of One Standard, the shuffler biases you towards playable hands. So the chance you will see more than one of these in your opening hand is probably increased.
Well, here I'll pull up the article. So it's it's banned in Arena Standard Best of One. It is not banned in traditional Standard, so it's Best of 3. It's not banned in Limited. Or special formats, they say. More on special formats in a moment. Do you remember when there was something... It wasn't banned. There was something that wasn't working. There was like a card in Lost Caverns of Ixalan that was like broken.
Yes, it was the 1 and a white artifact that taps for a white that mana you can only spend on artifacts. And then you can also like sacrifice it to get an artifact back from your graveyard.
And so they disabled it, but it was also disabled in like sealed. Which was frustrating when I opened a sealed pool with 2 of them.
And then, and it might have been grayed out on one day, but then other days I think you could like put it in your deck, but then you couldn't use it.
Anyway, so that's not what's happening here. And it is also suspended in Arena Alchemy, Best of One and Best of 3, pending a rebalance. And so...
and Alchemy is standard, right? Like the Alchemy format? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's... they say fast without the fun undermines the purpose of the game. It's just a sentence that I pulled out of this thing here. So yeah, especially problematic in Best of One Constructed, where players on the opposite side of the battlefield win or lose the game with little or no decision making on their part, no option to sideboard impossible solutions. This is sort of like they also mentioned Nexus of Fate. If you have it in your collection, you'll get a wild card. They're going to rebalance it for Arena. This is just an Arena thing. Yeah.
So we're not anticipating that this card will get banned in Standard because all Standard play uses the 2 out of 3 format in sideboards, like all the all of regular Magic. So just one of those kooky Arena things. I guess. I'm not sure how dominant this strategy is in traditional Standard right now. I've heard people are enjoying it, but I haven't had the chance to dip my toe in and play a bunch of Standard lately. But yeah, I assume when they say fast without the fun, like...
Yeah, they say it results in non-interactive win conditions happening just sort of arbitrarily within the first 2 turns.
Like if you play 2 of these, if you have 2 of these in your opening hand, and then you have Mountain, a 1-drop that... I'm sorry, can you help me out here, Paul? There's a 1-drop, I think it's rare, but it might be uncommon, that has
Heartfire
Valiant.
Hero.
Thanks, yeah. So
that's the
so
one.
this one gives itself a +1/+1 counter. So, and the Leyline copies the spell, right?
The spell that targets it. So you get your Leyline out, you play Heartfire Hero on turn 1, and then turn 2, you've got Turn Inside Out.
Right.
For example, which is also from Duskmourn.
Right.
So it's +3/+0, and it targets, and then if the creature dies, then you manifest Dread.
So if you have 2 Leylines out, that's 20 damage, right? Because if you have 2 of these Turn Inside Outs, 2 Mountains.
And then also the adventure mode of Callous Sellsword, which is Burn Together.
You can sacrifice it.
Is target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any other target, then sacrifice.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there was a fling effect.
Right, yeah, so you don't even have to. Even if you have a blocker, you can't stop this mouse. It's going to deal 20 to you off of Leylines doubling the Turn Inside Out, and then Burn Together, dealing twice its power because the Heartfire Hero also essentially casts Burn Together.
So turn 1 you just hero, then turn 2 you just go Turn Inside Out, Burn Together, and that's more damage than necessary.
Cool.
Right.
So nice and efficient.
Yeah.
You can also use Monstrous Rage.
I mean, it might take you 3 turns if you don't have all of the ley lines, but it's still going to be quite fast, assuming these ley lines come down, right?
Cacophonous Scamp is another one that sort of factors into this. There's a bunch of different variations, apparently. So,
Neat.
yeah.
So that's probably a way that quite a few people managed to rank up quickly on the arena ladder recently.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to rank up quickly on the arena ladder doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
For some reason, they brought Omniscience draft back with Duskmorn, and like that's great. People appreciate that. For some reason, it was ranked this time. Typically, Omniscience draft is an unranked thing.
Omniscience is a very serious competitive form of Magic.
I mean, I agree. Like like there. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Like Omniscience has draft has like pretty clear like tiers of understanding, I think, right? And the format can get mined out by any individual pretty quickly. Like it doesn't take very long to figure out like what are the best things to do in Omniscience draft. Like Omniscience draft doesn't usually have a meta game. Like it isn't like you draft for anyone who's unfamiliar, it's a version on Arena where instead of putting lands in your deck, which you still can do if you want to, but instead of putting lands in your deck, you usually play 40 spells. So you play almost everything you draft, but then in the game you have like the Omniscience emblem, which means you can cast spells from your hand for free, and also once per turn you can get 1 mana of each color in order to pay for activated abilities or whatever. Spells from exile quite a bit from this set.
And your hand is only 3 cards.
You only get 3 cards. You can still mulligan, but you're mulliganing to 2 and 1 instead of 6 and 5.
So try not to if you can.
Well, I want to say, actually, so Jake Brown dropped a tweet saying, like, this format actually really tests your mulligan ability. And I want to sort of agree because obviously you only get 2 mulligans. And you can't get through every draft with, like, a ton of interaction. There's a cancel it common in Duskmorn, and it was one of the top tier cards.
Yep.
But, if you don't have 4 cancels or more in your deck, it might not be worth mulliganing 2 draw 2s and a blank on the draw because you don't think that there's a good chance you're mulliganing into something that's going to stop you from losing on turn 1 anyway. So, yeah, I said there's no metagame. Basically, the entire format is take as many divinations as you can, and then if you can't take a divination, a Thoughtseize or a cancel are both pretty good. A cancel is especially good, and then hand attack is kind of the third best thing you can do.
So in Duskmorn Omniscience specifically, there's a whole bunch of rooms that are very good to take early because the more expensive, generally the more expensive side of them draws cards. So the Meat Locker and the
Drowned Diner.
And the Drowned Diner, because you play the Drowned Diner for free with Omniscience, and that's draw 3, discard 1.
Even better than draw 2.
And if you have to, you can also then use the Omniscience mana to unlock the Meat Locker. Derelict Attic and Widow's Walk. Derelict Attic draws 2 cards, you lose 2 life. That one's very good. And there's a green one that I can't remember the name of.
It's the Rickety Gazebo.
Thank you. The Rickety Gazebo, because the second half of it is, I think it's 5 or 6 mana. Oh, it's only 4 mana. Sorry.
Yeah.
Greenhouse Rickety Gazebo, and it's you mill 4 cards and then return 2 permanents from among those or not even from among those. Just return 2 permanents. Yes, from among them
those.
to your graveyard to your hand. So you're hitting other, you're hitting Derelict Attic, Drowned Diner, those things.
Or if you're lucky, Marina Vendrell's Grimoire.
Yes, I mean. Marina Vendrell is obviously a wildly good card because if you're taking lots of these rooms, then you're also getting to draw potentially, 4 or 5 cards off of casting Marina Vendrell. The priest bishop, who is it? Someone of the Harrowing.
Oh yeah, so there's the Ravenous Rats. Yeah,
Fanatic of the
Harrowing. Yeah.
So that makes both players discard a card, but if you discard a card, you draw a card. But again, we're looking at hand sizes of 3. So if you can rip out, a third of their hand, you really want to be on the play in this format.
Oh yeah, losing the die roll is like it's by the time you get to the die roll, we're in the late game.
Yeah,
and losing the die roll is more or less unacceptable in this format. Yeah.
And so you mentioned I can't remember the name of it, but the cancel that it's either you counter a spell
twist
or
reality in
Thank
this
you.
one. So sometimes you
either
manifest dread. You know?
counter a spell or manifest dread. Generally, you're countering a spell, but an even better counter spell in this format is get out, because you can counter something, or the second mode of get out is return 2 permanents to their owner's hands. So you target your own 2 rooms that you've just done, recast them, draw more stuff. You can very easily mill someone out with the crab.
Yeah.
With these triggers,
Or kill them with the leech. That happens too.
Yep.
Okay, maybe I wasn't taking this format seriously.
This
sounds cool as hell.
It's silly as heck, but it's quite fun.
I mean, it's based on silly principles, but then like the execution of it is like chess almost. Like you know,
could have just stopped after the second word.
Because the first time that I sat down, I was like, oh right, cool, Omniscience draft. Yeah, this is always a silly fun time. And I'm like, oh, and I can play all those. I can just take all like the land cycler creatures that are like arbitrarily large numbers of mana. You know, they're all like 6s or whatever. Or there's the 7 mana. The demon that makes people sacrifice stuff, and so like, oh yeah, I can just play all the big expensive creatures, and then you're like, wait, no, hang on. I mean, you will take those if there's nothing else in the pack, and you'll still run them because you can kill your opponent with them. But
there's non-linear shenanigans that are facilitated by
exactly.
This format.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was some. It's really quite interesting to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see how this is supposed to go.
and every now and then you do get a game of Magic that's like a game of Magic.
Yeah, and those are
Right?
neat.
Like every now and then in Omniscience, right? Like we described all these sort of concepts of the format, but sometimes you'll be playing and you're like, oh wait, I can't attack here because he'll crack back for lethal, or like, okay, at end of turn I can tap their creature or something, and then the next turn I'll have just enough. Whereas most games are just like they play a bunch of Glimmer Bursts and you don't have a twist reality, and
Glimmer
then
Burst
they
is
have
the
like
other one.
400 power on the table and they pass. You have 0 cards in hand because they let's play the game. They cast Let's Play a Game and Fanatic of Harrowing, and then you draw like 1 creature, and then they attack.
Oh, I definitely had a turn where it's like, all right, I'm on the play. Like we said, you want to be on the play. So I like turn 1, Drowned Diner on the stack. And my opponent goes like Glimmer Burst.
Twist reality.
Yeah. Twist of Reality. And so then I'm like, oh, now I have nothing to do. And they have 5 cards in hand.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is bad. As a reminder, Glimmer Burst is the instant draw 2 cards and make a 1/1. That said, all of that said, why was this ranked?
Why was it ranked?
Skill testing format.
I guess
It does test skill. Yeah, that's fair.
A different set of skills.
It also had a weird name. The Q, instead of just being called Omniscience Draft, which it's normally been called, the Q was like Duskmourn House of Horrors Booster Draft ranked with Omniscience emblem.
I think because it was a quick draft.
Oh, quick draft. Yeah, quick
So
draft.
I think
yeah,
I think it was Omniscience, Duskmourn, House of Horror, quick draft. It was a very
it was
long
long.
name.
It was super long.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Is it gone already?
they only usually give it to us for 1 weekend. It is gone now. I've always liked this format. It takes Magic cards and does something creative and different with them, and I think the experience of playing it probably puts most people off if you're like looking forward to playing Magic, because it doesn't really feel like that, but it is like a neat thing you can do with your Magic cards. The only time I've gotten to see it outside of Arena is con after party judge events, where sometimes there's multiple judges who are like, yeah, I need to open all these packs for something, and there'll be 1 or 2 of us who are like, Omni Draft?
I have never thought to do this in person.
Yeah, if you have more packs
crap.
than time by a lot, it is like a way you can just be like, okay, the packs are open now.
Right.
And we did anything with them.
Yeah. We didn't just
open them, but it was like close to that fast. It's like booster pack battles, but on a slightly higher scale, right? Like booster pack battles also usually uses infinite mana, right, and small number of cards.
I now very badly want to do this in person.
Okay, well, I will Omni Draft you.
Sweet. All right. What else?
Anything else happening on Arena? We talked about that band card, and
I don't think
we had a lot of topics for today. We talked about Gauntlet,
Yeah.
and we talk to them about the PPR.
I did mention the PPR at the top of the show, yes,
Okay.
but I will remind people that it's
Coming up.
upcoming this Friday. New news in Commander. That Wizards has formally announced the Commander panel,
Right.
which is interesting because they did say that they were going to be taking an angle on it similar to the Pauper, not panel. Is it the Pauper?
Yeah, Pauper format panel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Pauper format panel was announced back in like 2021 or 2022.
Yeah. And I think that the distinction here is because if you have a first flush of looking at this, you're like, wait a minute, I thought the problem was that the people on the rules committee and the commander advisory group were receiving
Vitriol.
harassment because these bands went out there with their names on them, and then they said Wizards has to handle this, and so it was going to go to Wizards has banned these cards, but now Wizards is saying, and this panel has all these named people on it. What's the difference here? And the difference is that Wizards is still the one banning the cards.
Right.
The panel is going to
advise.
Yeah, the panel is going to advise and talk about it, but the panel doesn't necessarily go, these are the bans, and then Wizards goes, okay, the panel says these are the bans. So this is still insulating people in that way, and I hope that it's helpful. And they said that the first thing that they did was offer positions on this panel to everyone who was on the rules committee and the commander advisory group, not all of whom accepted, understandably, but many did. And then they've added more folks, and they talked about how there's probably going to be annual cycling through. People will leave, people will join.
Probably in the first year, more people will leave than join too.
Probably.
Yeah, Gavin said that's what they anticipate because the panel is pretty big right now.
Yeah.
It's like as big as LRR.
Yeah. There's a lot
Speaking
of folks.
of, we have Ben Wheeler now.
Oh yeah, God, someone's in both things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can get him on the inside.
Local
Yeah,
boy
no,
makes
no.
good.
We are the puppet masters of the Commander Commander panel.
format panel. Yeah,
Commander format panel.
Yeah. The
So-
pipeline is you loudly complain enough in chat, and then we tell Wheeler.
We give Wheeler his marching orders.
Yeah, and then
he
Wheeler
mind controls.
dutifully goes over to Wizards and
He
goes,
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
He not only hears what we say, but listens to us.
Yeah,
for
Wheeler
sure. That
respects
happens.
all of our opinions
Yeah.
very much.
Definitely.
And I've proposed as our first glorious edict that Commander players must wash their hands after using the bathroom.
Please, I will give you a jelly bean. That's working for my kids, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, I'm down
See,
to
a
single.
4-year-old can do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of you will be able to.
we leave tomorrow.
I have seen the bathrooms at convention centers. I have seen things no human should. I have seen men walk out of stalls directly back out into the convention center. And you may think God can't see you because you're indoors, but I can.
Because I also need to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay,
Disgusting.
we're leaving tomorrow. I'm packing tonight. I think I have time to hit the bulk star, the bulk barn on the way to the airport to get a bunch of jelly beans.
Yes.
to take.
Yeah, if you could get
So-
about 10,000 jelly beans.
Yeah,
then
like my
that should-
opponent gets up to go to the bathroom, and be like, now.
If
wash
you
your
come
hands,
back, yeah,
get a
you
jelly
get a
bean.
jelly.
Get a
You get a
jelly
whole jelly bean.
For you, not even a black one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You
that's
can
working.
Pick your
though.
flavor.
I'm on like single digits this week of walking in my bathroom and like needing to, do the things. Edited for work, keeping this safe for work for y'all.
So,
But
you can read the article with the full rundown of the panel. I could read through the names now. It's Attack on Cardboard, Bandit, Benjamin Wheeler, Charlotte Sable, Dequan Watson, Deco, Greg Sablin, Etetu, Josh Lee Kwai, Kristen Gregory, Louis Stardust, Olivia Gobert-Hicks, Rachel Weeks, Rebel Lily, Scott Larrabee, Tim Willoughby, and Toby Elliott.
So several people from the CAG, right? Like Olivia and Ben and Rebel and Charlotte were all in the CAG. And then I think Josh and one other, and
Kristen
Was it
was
Kristen? They both left the keg during the last few days of the
Yeah.
keg, and then they're back on. This?
Olivia was actually on the rules committee as well,
Oh, really?
not the keg.
Oh, okay, might be.
Yeah, as was Toby. And
Toby, I remembered from the RC. Yeah.
Was Scott Larrabee on the rules committee?
I feel like I can't remember if Scott Larrabee. 'Cause Scott Larabee's worked for Wizards for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he was on the RC or just used
yes.
his name from
Yes,
before. Okay,
he was,
so
yeah.
so both Toby and Scott and Olivia from the RC.
Yeah. Now there was a because we may as well talk about it. Gavin, not Verhey, Gavin Duggan of the Rules Committee, the described once as the Wozniak of Commander.
Okay.
He posted this tweet earlier in the week about like that Wizards had a surviving NDA in the agreement to be on the Rules Committee, and he was like, "Hey, this seems like a weird thing to ask, right?" And obviously, he did not eventually take them up on that, and
or non-disparagement clause.
non-disparagement clause.
Non-disparagement,
Sorry, a
right.
surviving non-disparagement clause.
NDC.
Yeah, so the implication being that if he took the position on the commander panel, then at no point in the future, even after leaving, could he ever speak ill of Wizards again. And that is not actually what that means. Apart from anything else, Rachel also, who is on the panel, clarified this earlier as well. And it's that you couldn't disparage them based on yet not publicly known information. So like
So
how
it's
is it
it's like
worded?
an NDA?
It's basically like an NDA. Like
Okay.
it's a boilerplate thing that like sounds frightening, but it absolutely does not mean that the people who are on the commander panel now are somehow not they could disparage Wizards now being on the panel if they wanted. It's just that they can't use
Privileged information.
privileged information to do it.
Right.
They can't leak stuff in it. Yeah,
In
it's-
order to get Wizards.
I'm not explaining it very well, so I'm going to shut up. But the point is, it's not as scary as it initially sounded.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, I remember from the article as well. Gavin is like, these people are all going to have, many of them are content creators, and they're all going to have their own social media, and they can all make their own takes distinct from whatever we decide about, bannings or decisions about the format. And they are going to see some cards that we're working on before they get released, or that maybe never get released. And, I assume that like it's not in the article, but it's like, yeah, they'll be under NDA for that stuff. But they're still going to be, all of them are going to be allowed to say like, hey, I said we shouldn't ban this card, or I said we should have banned this card 3 years ago, or I said, this new mechanic isn't actually fun, even though it's pointed straight at commander players. They're all welcome to voice their opinions. And while I don't follow all of them super closely, I know that Ben Wheeler will voice his opinion, whatever it is, whether he's working for Wizards or not, or whatever else you're hoping that he would voice, he'll voice his opinion.
To quote from Gavin Verhey in this article, to that end, I've told the members of the panel they're not just welcome to express their own opinions publicly, they are encouraged to do so. They're here because they're community members, and it is important that they can be honest. They shouldn't feel beholden to back up whatever decisions the panel or WotC is making. I don't want them to have to act or speak inauthentically. Stating their own opinions in public is totally fine. Disagreeing loudly is totally fine. Loudly and publicly taking issues with our decisions is totally fine. Since Wizards makes the final calls, if there's any frustration, it is placed on Wizards, not on the members of this panel. And many of the members of this panel are content creators, and it's important to both us and them that they are free to disagree and offer different opinions on their own channels. So
what do we think of this decision to form the Commander format panel, like the three of us? Because we had obviously a similar looking set of groups beforehand managing the whole format, basically. And now we have one unified group that's even bigger than the other two groups put together, I think, from before, but that is just in a constant conversation with Wizards, but Wizards is going to hold all the final say.
Well, I think it's a statement from Wizards that they liked the CAG. They liked the rule committee. They liked having that body. of people who were deeply invested in the format to advise or to, come up with what they wanted the format to look like.
Right.
So they, in spite of those bodies now having become dissolved, they liked that and they want to keep that. It works for Pauper. It worked for Commander until it didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they want to maintain that, but are willing to take some of the heat off it for them.
Yeah. Like, I guess the question I have is like, how well will this barrier work? Because it's got to be a tricky thing for anyone involved. And I've, been involved in formats like trying to put yourself somewhere that you can offer your opinion loudly and publicly and not face, heat or vitriol. So like, I guess I am still somewhat concerned for the safety of all of these creators. Some of them are my friends. And so like, I want to know that this is going to work and people are going to understand that. But at a certain point, it's like, if you're in the like public space, you can't necessarily dodge like stray hate or whatever, but maybe it'll help. I think if it helps, I'm really happy with it. Also, the Pauper format panel seems to have been a success. Like the Pauper format panel, I don't think came out of the ashes of anything else that was handling Pauper. Pauper was just managed by Wizards, but then Wizards took note of like several loud community voices saying like, hey, we would really like something to be done about this issue in Pauper. We have 2 or 3 cards or 2 or 3 decks that are just like much too dominant, or the play pattern's not fun, or, this card really shouldn't be legal in Pauper. And eventually that turned into the panel, and so it was a success. So hopefully the same model is going to work for Commander.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm similarly cautiously optimistic with the same concerns that I expressed previously.
Right. We could also, I don't know if you talked about the 4 bracket thing a bit, like they probably are going to go forward. That seems like some more understanding has developed with that. The idea of taking a 10-point scale of power level and just moving it into 4 categories, I really like, because it was a meme for forever that like, oh, everyone's deck is a 7 or something. Yeah. It's either a 7 or you think it's a 10 or you think it's a 1. Like we only really had 3 numbers we were using in the 10-point scale. And so now we're trying to fit in a 4th.
Yeah, well,
what is a 2?
Yeah. Like I assume that it's not going to be, like they have said, it's going to be individual cards. And if you have 1 card from one bracket, you would
you're in that bracket.
And they've also said it's just part of the conversation.
Right? Yeah, I wonder if we'll see things like, Flash is not individually bracketed, or is a 1.
Okay.
Hulk might individually be a 1. Flash Hulk might be a 3 or a 4.
Oh, I see.
Right? Like, does that seem plausible?
I think it's easier for everyone if you just put the cards at, like, if you can pair Flash with something that's busted, then you put it in the 4 category.
Right.
Yeah, I mean they've said that this isn't rolling out anytime soon. They're going to talk about it some more at Vegas. It's still not even in play at Vegas, and even then, like you said, Nelson, even then it's still not the be all and end all. It's it's not actually like enforceable.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they're not Wizards isn't trying to tell anyone like you can't play your 2 deck with your friend's 4 deck at the same kitchen table or anything like that. Like they still just want you to play Commander. It's just more guidelines for having those pregame conversations.
Yeah.
So I think if you take a 10-point scale and you crunch it down to a much smaller number, that's going to be easier for people to manage.
We would call this a reduced unit.
A reduced unit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because, everyone's saying their deck was a 7. That's actually Ben Wheeler's activation phrase. If you say that to him, he will snap over to lure mode, in which case he will start making edicts on our behalf.
Spoilers, but we got like a whole bit.
Yeah, he's the Dominarian candidate, actually.
There's in the new season of Friday Nights, there is like an exchange about like the deck's a 7 joke, which I guess by the time the season comes out will be no longer of a relevant joke, but it's still funny.
We got to edit it quick. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Can't wait.
No more reshoots.
No more reshoots.
Yeah. So that'll be.
I mean, that'll be fun. Maybe all those decks are a 7 on a 4-point scale. My deck is a 7.
Yeah, but it's only. But there's only.
I will kill all 3 of you before you can move.
Okay, do we have time?
Leylines.
Is there, speaking of 4s and 7s, do we have maybe 4 or 7 Foundation spoilers to talk about? Is that
Yeah,
the
we
only
can
other
talk
thing
through some
we're gonna do
Foundation
today?
spoilers, considering next episode will be after the PPR. So,
All the
yeah,
Foundation
we'll
spoilers.
be doing, you'll see all the Foundations.
We will have released by the next time you see us.
very soon, yeah. So I initially thought that this was all reprints, and that is not the case. There's a bunch of new cards in Foundations, and among the cards that have been spoiled, there's a pretty solid like bulk of cats. It was like a cat theme. So let's take a look at 9 Lives Familiar, 1 black for a 1/1 cat. This creature enters with 8 revival counters on it if you cast it. And then when it dies, if it had a revival counter on it, return it to the battlefield with 1 fewer revival counters on it.
People
Beginning
kept
of the
sending
next
this to
step.
me, being like, does this go in Aristocrats? It's like, at 3 mana, it better win the game for me.
It seems awfully slow for Aristocrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question for Canadian Highlander Aristocrats. Like, if you do have the free sack outlet and the Blood Artist,
Yeah.
like, this
I mean,
does
this
win
is
the game for you.
It will, yeah.
right?
If you got 2 Blood Artists, but it's like, man.
Actually, you have to wait till
Man.
the beginning of the next end.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you're right,
no,
sorry.
it doesn't. It doesn't
win
just
the
come
game for
back.
you. Might be.
Yeah,
Now-
you need 8. Yeah, do you got 8 turns in Canadian Highlander?
I mean, you can do your opponent's end steps, so you're doing like 2 per turn cycle, but still.
Yeah, but better question for that exact question. Vengeful Blood Witch. 1 and a black for a 1/1 vampire warlock. Whenever this creature or another creature you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Oh,
yeah.
hell yeah. Yeah. Another creature you control.
Wait, well, we already
Yeah,
play
okay,
the ally
Cutthroat,
one.
yeah.
Right? It's just the
Yeah,
ally
it's-
one, but it's a vampire.
Yeah.
I would say this is a slam dunk in Aristocrats
Yeah.
because this is exactly what the deck wants to do.
Yeah, this probably gets rid of, I don't know.
Someone's got to make room for more Blood
Bastion of
Artists.
Remembrance. I mean, Bastion. comes with a
Bastion's
creature.
nice because it dodges removal and it comes with a dude.
I think we play all the 0 mana sack outlets, all the Blood Artists, and all the 1 mana 2 bodies cards we can before we play anything else, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we just get your 3 drops and above. And
Yeah,
like,
this
pick your
cuts
least
some
favorite
kind
one
of
of
like,
those.
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but the better question is whether it goes into vampires. I'm not sure.
I think this does because vampires just wants to like get them. Right, like you're turning 1/1 sideways, 1/1
Right.
sideways.
Yeah, but like Blood Artists don't always go in those decks because it's not actually aggressively statted.
Right,
But if it's a
this
fireball,
is a
it
1/1.
works. Yeah, and I mean it's a vampire, so it might be like a 3/3 when it attacks or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah.
This has a base power.
I do like that it has a point of power.
Yeah.
Speaking of 2 creatures for 1 card, one of those cats I mentioned, the Prideful Parent, is a 2 and a white for a 2/2 vigilance cat. When it enters, you get a 1/1 cat.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just a
2 cats.
2 bodies,
good
Yeah.
little card.
3
for,
power, 3 toughness.
probably mostly for limited, but
The
seems
cat
pretty
doesn't
cool.
have vigilance yet because it's still learning.
Yeah, and then there's also
Well, the parent is vigilant.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the
I
child
see.
can be reckless.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
the Helpful Hunter, which is far too adorable, is the 1 and a white 1/1.
That was an endangered songbird. Yeah, buddy. Good
And just draw a
job.
card. I love. Well, the flavor text is from Basri Cat. The conquering hero returns. What trials did you face, little one?
That's adorable. Also, I'm looking forward to the like alternate art printings of this where the eyes just get bigger. Like they'll like drop, a different secret layer every year or something, whereas eventually the eyes take up the entire card frame.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just like a cat. It's a cat dragging its own misshapen, obscenely gigantic head to support its eyes, and it's just mewing, "Kill me, end my suffering."
I meant they're gonna draw like a cute Japanese anime style.
It's just got no fur on the side of the head that it has to drag along the pavement
I said big
because
eyes.
it's too chibi.
Cameron immediately went to horror.
There's also the Felidar Savior, which I believe is a new card. 3 and a white for a 2/3 cat beast with lifelink, and when this enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures you control. So
Solid limited play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's some other ones that are not in English, and I believe some of them are new.
Time for the MTG Salvation translations.
Yeah, well, so Scryfall has one. It's a rare vampire card. Sorry about this, Paul. It's the one for 5 and a black. Scryfall is calling it Crossway Troublemakers, which may be its actual name or not. It's a 5/5 vampire. Attacking vampires you control have death touch and lifelink. And whenever a vampire you control dies, you may pay 2 life, and if you do, draw a card.
I kind of like this translation. Wasn't there a crossways vampire in Innistrad?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like a 4/1.
This guy was actually in
Oh, this is a reprint.
It's a reprint from Baldur's Gate, or
Crimson Vow and Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander.
okay.
It was in
cool.
both of those commander decks.
All right.
Neat. That explains why I've never
So
seen
this one
the
is a
art before.
reprint.
Yeah.
But new to stand. Or sorry, and the set Foundations, it's coming out with its own Commander product as well. So we might see some reprints for Commander that aren't.
I actually, this may surprise you, do not believe they're commander decks.
Oh, okay.
Because we received all that product that you might have seen in the Foundation's PPR announcement video, and we have play boosters, we have Jumpstart. There's a new proper Jumpstart coming out with Foundations.
Okay.
Which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
Love Jumpstart.
Sure.
Actual Jumpstart. There's the starter collection and the beginner box, and there's collector boosters. But nowhere did we see commander decks.
But you just listed 5 products that could have cards that aren't in standard.
Yes.
So.
But I think the point is that everything from Foundations is standard.
Yeah, that would
okay.
make sense to me. Like if you buy a product labeled Foundations,
Yeah.
you will be able to slam it into your 60-card standard deck.
I mean, that would be sweet, and I would like that.
Yeah, just for clarity of purpose in design and clarity of no, this is the starter set. You can go into it completely naive of Magic, and you will be able to use these cards.
Disappointed.
Nobody will DQ you from a standard event.
Disappointed judges having to talk to kids at their first event ever.
Right.
All around the world would breathe a sigh of relief if we could just have the beginner box not include anything that they can't then bring to the tournament.
Yes, exactly.
That would be great.
Yeah, I think I like that quite a lot.
Oh, and bundles. There was bundles too, but no commander decks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other, I believe that the only other new card is Anthem of Champions, which is it's a little anthem. It's green, white for enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1.
This and the 9 Lives Cat, I think, were spoiled at a previous event. I think I had seen both of them earlier in the year, but we probably didn't cover them in TTC yet, so that's fine.
I really like the art on this, although I assume that somewhere some HEMA guy is no, this shield wall would be trivially broken.
They're standing on stairs. There's no way they could hold the formation. Right?
There's
the hoplite on the left is simply out of position.
Right.
We would break the formation there.
Incredible.
I like this one where they turtling up.
Yeah, no, that's nice. This card seems kind of sweet too. 2-mana anthems have had a place before. I remember probably the last time I played real White Weenie was in F&M with in standard with Honor of the Pure. Because they gave us 2-mana. I think it's white creatures you control get +1/+1. This is back in Magic 2010, but at the time anthems all cost 3. There was a green one and there was a couple of white ones. I mean, there was Crusade from Alpha Beta, which does only cost 2, but affects your opponent's white creatures too, along with Bad Moon.
Well, with all the cats, maybe we can just sleeve up a deck we can call Honor of the Purr.
Perfect.
I'm into you.
Great. Well, there we go. That was a whole bunch of stuff on Tap Tap. And next episode, you're going to hear us talking about the Foundation's PPR, which again is happening on November 1st at 10 a.m. So please tune in for that. And then we're going to take a little Tap Tap Concede break for the during Desert Bus, but then we'll be back with more stuff later. So tune in next week for the Foundations stuff. But for now, I want to remind you about Card Kingdom. Check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. Buy your cards there. Use the code LRRMTG5 if you want to buy stuff on Dragon Shield. Get yourself a 5% discount. And of course, the most importantly, everything that we do is brought to you by you, either on our Patreon or subscribing to the Twitch, why not, or becoming a member on this YouTube channel. So, yeah.
Maybe we could get a button that just says, my deck is a 3.5.
Oh, gosh, no kidding. People are going to try to come up with that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, until that happens, I have been Graham, joined by Nelson.
Wheeler. Activate destroy mode.
And Cameron.
Huh?
Paul's been on tech. Heather gets these online. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.